Kurtis Minder. I'm the CEO of GroupSense and the author of Cyber Recon. If you're here because you clicked on a QR code from the book, you should have known better. Don't click on things. This is part of a web series that I decided to do to honor folks in the industry that I admire and wanted other folks to see some of the leadership that I've been sort of honored to learn from throughout my career. And today I have Maureen Kaplan with me. Maureen, can you kind of tell us a little bit about you and where are you working today?
Absolutely. Curtis, I'm just delighted to have a chance to be with you today. I have been a cybersecurity practitioner for nearly 25 years. And before that, I was a software engineer for many years. I've worked with cybersecurity organizations that are startups all the way to multinational organizations. My focus has been on connecting the dots between what organizations need to do to mature their cybersecurity program and all the way to helping implement terrific teams that support and monitor organizations and their cybersecurity needs. My current role today is as the Chief Revenue Officer for Silver Sky. And one little other note, Curtis, you and I have been colleagues and friends for over a dozen years, and I'm honored to be with you today.
Well, and I'm humbled and honored as well. And maybe that's a good way to kind of start is how we know each other. Like many of great people that I've known in my career, we cross paths over and over again, sort of organically throughout our career. And it's always fun, when we do, and I get to work. I know what I'm getting when I start working with you again. And I was thinking back to some of the early interactions we had, and part of the reason why I asked you to be one of the professionals profiled in the book was, when I was working for a security vendor, you were running account executive or account management for a very large insurer, I believe, and we were going to do a project together. And I remember being sort of humbled, and I admired the sort of structure, discipline. You had a very specific plan or objective for your client, and you kept all of the moving parts so well orchestrated. It was not. I haven't seen that before in my career, and I've still not quite mastered it myself. I've always tried to mirror that. I don't know. Do you remember those days?
I do remember those days, and I was super fortunate in a couple ways in my background in engineering and my ability to, when I stepped into the cybersecurity world, having walked the walk of my clients and understanding some of the challenges that they were having.
That's so
But the
important.
other piece of that is that I joined the cybersecurity industry when we didn't even talk about it in terms of cybersecurity. It was information protection, the early days of explaining to folks what a firewall was and why they needed it. And the notion at the time of having all of this data in an organization is absolutely fantastic. Let's get a lot of it. We don't really know what we're going to do with it, but
Right.
let's capture a lot of it. So you come in as a cybersecurity professional and you're like, okay, let's put some reins around how much you're collecting, where it goes, who looks at it, who touches it, when does it go away? And when we worked with that insurance company, they had just completed a major acquisition and they were on the discovery mode. They were international, so they had hundreds of locations around the world. And this was a chief information security officer that had a very big job to do of protecting the organization and recognizing the voyage of discovery they were on about what this acquisition was. So the approach that we took at the time that I have followed with the teams that I've led is understanding a starting point and helping an organization mature over time and understanding how to take bite-sized chunks of making improvements in a security program with a tie back to let's appreciate the business case that any cybersecurity leader needs to do to justify that in their organization that typically is not a cyber organization. So you have to put it in a business context of risk management and growth expansion opportunities. And over the years, the consumers of this insurance organization has gotten more sophisticated around what they expect. So security wasn't just a draw on the bottom
Right.
line, it was actually a growth accelerant. And you and I had lots of conversations around taking them on that maturity journey. It's a fun conversation to have, but it requires a tremendous amount of trust building.
Yeah, a couple of thoughts on that. So one, I have to make, light of the fact that what you started with, which was when I started in what is now just called cyber, I guess. It didn't have a name or a
It
budget
did
or a
not.
title, and then it had over that period of time maybe a dozen different labels from information security to network security to, and now we're
Right.
down to a single word that is so ambiguous. I don't.
I don't know
I
what it's
guess it's
going to be in the
efficient,
future.
but
Right. It is very efficient, but it's the umbrella has gotten bigger about what's under the umbrella to protect.
right. And my second thought was, I had two more things. One is I think sometimes as practitioners in the industry or salespeople, we sometimes are so busy on our mission that we sort of lose sight of the fact that the leadership at the customer or the partner are human beings.
Yes.
And they're not infallible, and specifically CISOs have one of the hardest jobs I think that you can possibly have, and having a good partner that can understand that, take that into account, that this is a person that can only consume so much of this at a time, which I think
Right.
dovetails really well to your comment about the maturity models, sort of concept. Sometimes the answers to these things are surprisingly simple, right? Which is kind of what you said is like, look, let's begin with the end in mind, right? Where do we want to go? And then let's be really self-aware and sort of honest with ourselves about where are we right now. And then how do you eat an elephant,
Right.
right? You one bite at a
Right.
time. So you just
One
start
bite at a
chipping it
time.
away.
Right. And also put some
Yep,
proof points in place that bolster everybody's efforts that says we are improving over time because the risks, and as your book so rightly points out, it just is accelerating the threats, and it's really daunting for business owners on where they go and what they pick. But it's also incredibly exciting for individuals who may not have an uber technical background or started off in software to get into cybersecurity. And one of the things that I love is I've had the good fortune of working for 11 different organizations across my career and leading teams of people that do amazing work for our clients. And some of the most successful and valuable team members came from very non-technical backgrounds,
that's neat.
farmers, gamers,
Right.
right? People who have worked in retail. It is something that's extremely democratic. So one thing that I hope your book captures is we need lots of people to first and foremost have an appreciation for security and do their part. The humans are the weakest link through all of this, right? As a consumer, as an employee, as a partner, but also that recognize that there is space in this industry for everyone to come and join us.
Right. And that's great because that's actually you got ahead of me a little bit. But that's where I was going to go next. And I have this, I probably stole it from someone. I don't remember where I heard it, but I have this concept that I talk about of this sort of cyber poverty line. So the insurance company that we were talking about, that's not them, right? But the majority of organizations sort of fall below this sort of best practices cyber poverty line where they just literally cannot afford the best of breed tools, and on top of that the talent. And so when you talk about there's room for folks, I always, when I talk at universities and things like that, I challenge the students to say, do you want to get experience? Help someone else. And you and I have worked on projects around that with
Yes,
Good Sense, where
yes, yeah.
there's plenty of room on Main Street America to not only hone your skills as a cybersecurity professional, but help someone else and help the economy and national security at the same time. So maybe that's a good dovetail into talking about sort of your mission and some of the things that you can do or you're doing to help the next generation of cyber.
Absolutely. So let's take it in two viewpoints. First is what are the attributes of folks that I look for to join our industry? And the second is How do we help those folks thrive in a career? So let's take it in two chunks. When I think about someone who's interested in cybersecurity, it's typically because I've chatted them up at the grocery store, or I've met them at an event or a cocktail party, and lots of people are fascinated about our industry and want to know more and think it's really cool and very complex. And how do we do that? And the first thing I look for is that spark. Does this interest you? The second thing I talk through is we need individuals with a high degree of resilience.
Yeah.
Our industry, if you think you want a job that you come in on January 1 and on December 15th you're doing that same job, this is not for
No,
you. The
no.
threats and the technology and the landscape of AI and automation changes so fast. You have to be wired for that. I want to jump on this train and I want to go along with
Well,
it.
yeah, and
And
can I just jump in and
yeah,
say, like, one of the
sure.
quips I do a lot of times, I say, I talk when I'm talking to people who are looking to get into the industry, is I say, this is a really unique profession. It's one of the few private sector professions where you have an enemy. I mean,
Yes. Right,
I'm
right,
not talking about competition. I'm talking about people who want to
right,
do you
right,
harm.
right, right.
And so that gets people excited because there's a sense of purpose. And I think purpose is really important to motivating people. But I sort of to balance that out, I remind them that the adversary has unlimited time and resources, and you have $5. Good luck.
Right. Good luck. Right,
Right.
right. So that gets, so that resilience kind of approach and the changing nature of it. And probably the third attribute of someone who'd want to join the business is an attention to detail, an ability to really dig in and understand what it is that you're looking for and connecting the dots. Now, that's why I mentioned one of my most successful team members came from farming. I was like, wow, okay, here's someone
I kind of came from
jumped
farming
out of
too.
bed
So
at the, crack of dawn, very focused on what needed to be done to keep all the pieces of the farm running, but also highly focused on output. What are
yeah,
the things I do today that make an impact 4 months from now and all that? And it was just amazing. So you take those little attributes, the it notice what didn't I say? I don't care if you're a science or math
right.
geek. I don't care if you went to college. I don't care if you're 22 or 62. I don't care if you live 150 miles outside of Topeka or in Brooklyn, right? It's
Right.
or in Nairobi, right?
Right.
There is a role for people that are excited and capture that. So then that is the okay, now my hope is that 100 people watching this video go, oh my gosh, that's me. Now
Yeah.
what?
Right.
So let's pivot into how do you find an organization that would give you a phenomenal career path? Okay. So the first thing I look for is join an organization where you have a job description where you know what good looks like. And you and I have talked about this
Mhm.
of there are lots of people that go, oh, I want to be a pen tester, or I want to run incident response or whatever. There is so much goodness in the basic blocking and tackling of
Yep.
working in a call center, work on an IT help desk, pick up the phone and help somebody install something, work at a Geek Squad at
Mhm.
the counter at your local computer tech store, that kind of thing, just helping the layperson understand how things work. And it gives you a real opportunity to do that. And when I look at hiring folks that work in a security operations center, I'm very specific about giving them the bounds of a job that is very clear that says, I'm going to bring you in the organization and train you up to do that job. It's really difficult for people to say, come on in, you can join this organization and you're going to wear 12 different hats and you're going to do this on Monday and this on
Right.
Saturday. And it's really hard to give them a path to success. So start with something simple
Right.
and a job description so that you, when you join the organization, knows what good looks like. And you had some ideas about recommendations for those early entrants too.
Well,
Curtis, what would
I
you
think you
say to
touched on
those?
them, which was as I'm taking and mentoring young folks entering the industry, newcomers to the industry, gauging their sort of current technical aptitude to the best of my ability. If I feel like they need to get up to speed just generally technically, I'm usually urging them to do something like you said, like a job at a help desk or just general IT support because it'll expose them to a lot of different pieces of the technology from networking to storage to the operating systems or a break fix type stuff like Geek Squad. The next phase of that would be and I think it's great that you brought this up too because that's something Silver Sky does, right, is managed services. uh, Working in a SOC or security operations center is one of the, in my mind, correct me if you disagree, but in my mind is one of the best entry level jobs to get visibility to what of all of the options of cyber careers could look like and which ones you might be more excited about and or have a natural aptitude for from one seat.
Yes, absolutely. And that's really a great segue to the second part of whatever that entree into the cybersecurity world is, whether you're working in IT support at your local hospital or you're working for a specialty organization like mine, once you have that initial training and you know how to do your job, the next thing that you'd want to look for is the ability to do an end-to-end investigation.
Mhm.
Meaning, let's say you work on IT support. I'll give you two examples.
Right.
Someone calls in, I have a problem with my laptop, with my server. It's doing X, Y, and Z. We got to apply software, patch it, test it out, look at permissions, all that kind of stuff. You, as an individual, take that from the call all the way to resolution. And you do that over and over again to the point where you are someone who develops a cadence of step-by-step methodologies that typically you'll follow. And in many cases, hopefully you join an organization that has some of those written down as a standard operating.
Ideally, right.
But ideally, what you want to do is rather than get pigeonholed into, I'm the guy that does step three, see if you can do the person that does steps 1 through 12
Right.
and encourage your employer and your supervisor to give you that opportunity to do that. Because that is the best way for you to do exactly what Curtis, you've just said, is get that bigger view of what's happening in cybersecurity in the industry.
You mentioned your management team and I think it's important and I'd love to hear your opinion on this. How does someone identify who a good leader is to follow and when they're choosing this career? Because that's a big part of it, right? You could have all of the aptitude and purpose and desire to do this and natural talent, and you end up in the wrong organization with someone who isn't a great leader, and you will end up in that pigeonhole inevitably or
Right.
something like that, and it will it's quite a speed bump to your career.
Right. It happens. All of us have had poor managers along the way. The suggestion that I would make is that the best criteria for you as an individual is to encourage slash demand a one-on-one with your manager a minimum of every 2 weeks for 30 minutes and
Right.
structure them as what did I accomplish? What did I say we were going to accomplish on my last one-on-one? What is the plan for this week? And what are some of the things that I can do to improve my skills? You can get a really quality discussion in 30 minutes,
Right.
and it makes you stand out from your peers because most people don't ask for this. But it also is something that if your manager says no or misses them or says, I'll give you 5 minutes as we're walking to the water cooler, try that a couple times and then schedule a one-on-one with their manager.
Yep.
Okay. You may only get that once a quarter,
Right.
but it gives you the opportunity to say, this is really important to me.
Yeah, it says I
I'm
care.
going to
I
make an
care. Yeah.
impact. I need it. I need it. I'm going to make an impact on your organization. I want you to know it. And
Right.
so this is what I'm looking for.
That's
So
great.
there's loads of other things you can do, but without having a cadence of a one-on-one meeting and making it look at what did I say I was going to do, what's coming up this week, and what am I going to do next,
Right.
and really bookend that. It is amazing what individuals can accomplish
That's
in a
great.
matter of a month or two. You're going to just supercharge your career just from that one thing.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, let's kind of circle back and tie it back to the book a little bit if we can, and then summarize here. But the Cyber Recon book is really about this one specific area of cybersecurity that I've found myself in over the last decade, uh,
Yeah.
which is effectively espionage. A lot of people don't understand that that's a thing, that there are private companies like GroupSense out there actively sort of conducting human operations or human intelligence operations in underground forums and things like this. And that as someone is looking at the menu of all the things that you can do in cyber, I think some people don't realize that this is on the menu,
Right.
and so that's one of the purposes of the book. I mean, as a professional who's been in the industry for so long, and obviously now at Silver Sky, I'm sure this is a fundamental part of what you guys are doing. Can you just kind of elaborate for a second on your thoughts on sort of cyber intelligence or digital risk programs that leverage espionage, like for the customer?
Yeah. So you are definitely far more of an expert in this area than I am. But one of the things that I encourage all of my clients to look at is start with the foundational components that they should be putting in as best practices for their organization, but really open the aperture when they think about who their competition is and what are some of the business risks that could happen to their organization. And don't forget those adversaries that, to your point, have unlimited time and unlimited resources. There is so much goodness in doing the basics
Mm,
because let's be honest, many companies aren't, and
no,
it's like shooting fish in a barrel for them.
right,
And so it would imagine if you were someone who was, let's say you're going to be a burglar, and I'm going to go down this row of houses on a street, and all I do is walk up, turn the doorknob, turn the doorknob, turn the doorknob. This is locked. This is locked. This is locked. This one's
right,
open. I'm going to walk in.
right,
How easy it is for me if you leave your door open, that's where it is. Now,
right,
over time, hopefully everybody puts their locks on,
right.
but having some of those basic pieces are
Well, I mean,
there.
I think intelligence, like if I'm going to stick with your metaphor, would be understanding how often someone walks down the street doing this, what they look like, what they're wearing, and which door locks they already have the keys for, so that you know which door lock to put on your lock and how to keep them away from your yard in advance is the reason why we exist, right? Is basically tell
Totally the reason why we exist. And I'll and
in,
I'll jump in there
right,
and
sure,
give you something that is a little bit closer to the work that I do is that it is totally reasonable for you to look at your organization and go, do I have the capacity and the time and the know-how to do that for my organization? If the answer is no, there are companies that are designed to not only protect you, but to look ahead and say, there are bad actors that are doing this in your geography, in your industry,
right,
and for the kind of technologies you have in your organization, and get predictive about putting blocks and controls in place. So you as an organization, you lock your door, but the team that's helping you and supporting you should be thinking about what else is happening
right. What's
and give you
next?
those protections and have that expertise and then prove it and show you what it is that they're doing to help and how they're modernizing on your behalf. So, as a business leader, that's something that should be top of mind for you as well, because please don't think like you have to do it all yourself.
Right,
Just like if you're a manufacturer, you're not going to manufacture your own printer. You're going
right,
to buy a printer for the business,
right.
right? Do
I
that
think in
and say,
cybersecurity there was a bit of that in the beginning where people felt like
oh, yeah,
took
oh,
pride in building it all in house and doing it
bootstrap
themselves.
it.
And
I can do it.
but then that introduces another level of risk that isn't really immediately apparent. And
Right,
having recognizing what your core competencies are, or what you feel like you need to own from a business risk perspective, and outsourcing the others to practitioners who specialize in that is just really good business.
right. It also is something that I'm a big advocate of looking at the core competency of the organization and helping every employee of that organization have a career path and a way to have something, a point of pride in what they do. And in many cases, organizations hire a small cybersecurity team and give them 780 projects to work on.
Yes.
And it's really hard to develop mastery, expertise, and that sense of pride when you're just standing in front of a fire hose going, what do I do next?
Right, right.
And there are organizations like ours and lots of others that have a mission to support you and meet you where
Group
you
sense.
are.
Yep,
Group
exactly.
sense,
Yep,
right? Silver Sky. We work with small and mid-sized businesses that provide something at the level that our customers can consume it with a service portfolio that allows that to a high degree of confidence.
that's great.
And we've been doing it for over 20 years.
Wow.
So something that's really
Kind
fun
of
and
grew up
just like
with
the
kind of
work
grew up
that
with
you
the
do, right?
industry.
Right, right. We're out here to work on your behalf. And I love the book and the premise of the education and the vision for security leaders, and also those nuggets of hope for
Mhm.
those next security practitioners.
Right.
Because the reality is we need strong cybersecurity leaders in every organization, people that wear that hat and think about protection
Every day.
and risk mitigation, right?
Right.
And disaster recovery and all those things. But we also need every person that is, even little kids who are 6 and 7 years old and thinking about what do they want to do when they grow up. I'd
Right.
love to have them look at you and me and say, that could be something that's amazing because I can speak for you and our business relationship and friendship over the years. We are passionate about what we do, but we're honored to have served our clients and our colleagues for dozens of years. And it only
Absolutely.
gets more interesting and and something that this world is changing a lot, and we're
Yep.
going to be a part of making the positive change.
Well,
So
that's a
thank you. Thank you
that's
for
well,
writing the book
well,
and spreading the word, Curtis.
yeah.
It's
Well,
amazing.
and thanks for allowing me to pull you into the story a little bit. And I like we're ending on this kind of positive note. Thank you for bringing us back to positivity. Hopefully, we've conveyed enough to help the new practitioners, get excited about what they can do next, and maybe some of the cyber leaders feel a little bit more comfortable with their options. So I really appreciate
Right,
your time.
right. My pleasure, my pleasure. And looking forward to what comes next for you.
All right. Thank you, Maureen. If you haven't read the book, if you come across this some other way, the book is Cyber Recon. You can get it at Barnes& Noble. You can get it on Amazon or your local bookstore. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Thank you.